A section of a Boeing 737 MAX 9 was ripped from the plane mid-flight. Several cell phones flew out. A door panel, which wasn't actually used in this plane, they called it a door plug, was ripped out. That was the section. The plane was forced to engage in an emergency landing. Now, we've heard quite a bit about the Boeing 737 MAX 8, 9s, etc. They had crashed. There had been a couple crashes before, and so they were grounded. Now they're being grounded again. Over this holiday week, over Christmas, I actually flew on Alaska Airlines several times, flying from Chicago to Seattle to Anchorage to Barrow, which the airline calls it. I know the people have voted to call it Utqiagvik, but the airline says Barrow. Then back to Anchorage, then to Fairbanks. Then we flew from Fairbanks to Seattle and back home, all on American Airlines. And we were flying on a Boeing 737 MAX 9. And I think we may have flown in a MAX 8 because we flew on a couple. One of the worrying things, I got to be honest, we were, I forgot which flight it was. It might have been the Seattle, I think it was Seattle to Anchorage was Alaskan Flight 93. And I was like, I don't know how I feel about that. It's like, certain skyscrapers don't have 13th floors. And just, with all due respect, like asking me to board Flight 93, I don't know. But there is something more sinister afoot, my friends. Recently, we heard a story about a United jet that suffered a hard landing, leaving Newark and heading to, I believe it was George Bush Airport, was in Texas. The hard landing basically destroyed the plane, nearly totaled it, causing severe damage to the body. It slammed down, bounced in the nose several times, and there are questions as to what happened. Now, according to Ashley St. Clair, there are questions, and I'm assuming this comes from a source, but she asks, was this related to a diversity hire? It may be the case. Boeing, of course, has heavily prioritized diversity. And then you take a look at some of these other stories that we have, and boy, it looks like we have a couple potential conspiracies afoot. I don't know if conspiracy is the right word, but more like agendas. You see, when you say conspiracy, they try to make it seem like you're arguing someone wanted someone else to die. But I suppose I should put it this way. Woke DEI policies are resulting in a failure and a collapse of infrastructure and our economy. Now, Mark Cuban famously came out this past week and was like, I'm all for DEI. And then everyone pointed out that the Dallas Mavericks don't have any older Asian women playing on the basketball team because it's a nonsense statement. Now, on the surface, you can say diversity just means making sure we're taking in the best applicants and we're looking everywhere. And in a simple explanation, it makes sense. If you're only looking at white people for a job, you're missing out. But if the argument is you're going to artificially inflate your demographic numbers by targeting, hiring only minorities or women, you will end up with failing industry because you're prioritizing ideology over meritocracy. So what do we have? We have that agenda, my friends. But if we want to get a little bit more conspiratorial, I got to be honest. I also have I got a bigger conspiracy, a Green New Deal conspiracy, a Great Reset conspiracy agenda. Now, the diversity thing may just be your standard political agenda, which is causing infrastructure collapse. But I believe it's also decently probable that we're looking at a Great Reset move to limit air travel. You take a look at everything we've seen over the past several years. They want you to work from home. They want you to be locked down. They have advocated in the press for climate change lockdowns. That is, they want you to not be able to leave your house because of climate change. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, in her Green New Deal resolution, so many years ago, nearly 5 years ago, said that they effectively wanted to make air travel unnecessary, and in a blog post said, phase out air travel. What happens? A couple plane crashes, a couple close calls, and people are quite a bit worried about flying commercial. Not to mention a pilot shortage, massive cancellations and delays sweeping across the country over the past several years. And it really does seem like air travel is being broken down. Now, I say whatever, I guess. But let me give you a lesser known public metric: private air travel. Now, many of you may be saying, I will never fly in a private jet, so it matters not to me. And you're correct. For the most part, it doesn't. But for those of us that use private air travel for running our businesses, and I got to tell you, I think this is something that's missed in the public sphere because of the esoteric nature of the private jet. I don't care if you like or don't like private jets. Okay, that's not the point. The point is the cost of private jets is skyrocketing and this is absolute insanity. 3 years ago, I'm sorry, this is about 3.5 years ago. I'm talking with some wealthy individual, and we were talking about a potential trip across the country, and I said the challenge for us is, if I do the show Friday morning and Friday night, that means I only have Saturday to fly out. So a Saturday event, like if you were going to book me as a speaker, is like basically impossible. And they said, get a private jet. And I was like, I can't afford a private jet. You crazy? And they're like, no. From the East Coast to the Midwest, we're looking at maybe like $15K round trip. And I went, really? And how many seats? Like 8 to 10, depending. And I'm like, okay. So we're looking at just over $1,000 per person for the crew to come out to do this event. That's actually not that bad. That's only a little bit more than first class. Guess where it's at now? 40 to 50,000. Inflation? Maybe. What started to happen is because of the cancellations, because of the pilot shortages, because of just the general first with COVID, nobody wanted to fly because of all the restrictions. Now, because of the crises pertaining to these flights, anyone who can afford it is trying to afford it. Rich people before would say, I don't care if I fly commercial. I'll fly private when I fly private. What I mean by rich is we're talking about people who have a net worth and maybe just over $1 million and a decent income to be able to handle the cost of like a $15,000 to $20,000 flight. They'd say, whatever, first class, it's $1,000. You get a meal on the plane and they're a bit more comfortable and it's not that big of a deal. But now it is. With plane crashes, with uncertainty, with diversity, the demand for private flights is through the roof. Long story short, all of these factors with diversity and with climate change and the globe and the Great Reset and all of these things are putting tremendous pressures on industry and resulting in their collapse. Whether it's intentional, whether it's an outright cabal conspiracy, which probably not, but it may just be simply put a political agenda resulting in negative consequences. We want to phase out air travel. We want climate change agenda. We want a Great Reset and Green New Deal, etc. That will result in what we are seeing. Perhaps it is a bit more nefarious. So let me show you where we're currently at. NBC News says hundreds of Alaska Airlines United flights remain canceled Monday after Boeing 737 MAX 9 groundings. Alaska Airlines said it expects cancellations to continue through the first half of the week. Now, over at the New York Times, I can show you this clip they have of someone sitting in the plane with a section blown off. Take a look at this. So here we can see. I don't know if there's any audio. I think we do have audio on this, do we? There's not a whole lot to hear. The plane landed. It was only in the air for about like 10 minutes, I believe. I could be wrong. And at first, I'm having dinner with friends and family, and whoa, take a look at this. Window blows off 737. I was like, wow, that's crazy. We were just on one of those flights with Alaska Airlines. It wasn't. It wasn't a window. It was a door plug. Basically, what I've read, and this could be wrong, there is a section of the plane that could be a door, but Alaska Airlines opted for it to not be a door. So it's just basically sealed over. It exploded and ripped off the plane. A couple cell phones flew out. Fortunately, this is crazy. The cabin depressurized and sucked things out of the plane. Apparently, people holding phones had their phones fly out of their hands. People could have been seriously hurt. Now, how does this happen? January 6th, the FAA announced the temporary grounding of certain Boeing 737 MAX 9 aircraft. And once again, another story emerges of mass cancellations, flights being grounded. How many people are now stuck, can't work? They talk about the metaverse, they talk about working remote, and then all our planes start breaking down. No, I'm not kidding. 737 MAX 9s were grounded. This was 10 years ago when they launched this. There's some crashes and they're like, whoa, we better put a halt on this. Now it's happening again. Prices are going up. Pilots shortage. People don't want to fly. I just don't think it's a coincidence. But conspiracy, maybe not. The likelihood is, this Occam's razor, There are people who are implementing diversity and climate change agenda programs, which is having a collapse effect. That is to say, I don't believe there's an individual going, we're going to crash planes. I believe what's happening is that Boeing announces global equity, diversity, and inclusion, and their plans to bring together a team and to be diverse. Global equity, diversity, and inclusion strategy. Getty, GEDI. Sure. And what does this turn into? They hire people based on race instead of merit. That's what they do. And then you get people who, based on the lack of merit, can't properly design a plane or fix it, and those planes crash or the infrastructure crumbles. And that's where we are. A big component of what we saw as to why we have a pilot shortage and other work shortages is because when COVID happened, a lot of people just retired. They said, okay, that's it. I'm out. I don't want to deal with this. I don't have to deal with it. I'm retiring. And then we lost a lot of people. And nobody wants to be a pilot anymore. It used to be a prestigious thing, not so much. So where are we? Take a look. Where are we? CBS News. This is from January 2nd. Plane crash in Japan. Pilot shortage. Kids boarding the wrong flights. Take a look at this. The Alaska 737 cockpit voice recorder data was erased. Erased. How does this happen? Now, this one has a lot of people yelling conspiracy. Something happened. What was really going on? We don't know. It could just be, and I'll keep it simple, diversity. That's it. When you prioritize diversity over meritocracy, this is what you get. It could also be with the lockdowns that happened and all the retirees, all the people retiring. These companies are desperate to hire anyone they can. The only problem is we are crumbling as a human society. The people they hired can't do the jobs. And these extremely technical devices that carry hundreds of souls, they're faulty and they fail. And now how many people are going to say, I don't want to fly if this is the case? The cockpit voice recorder data on the Alaskan Airlines Boeing 737 MAX 9, which lost a panel mid-flight, was overwritten, U.S. authorities said, renewing attention on an industry call for longer in-flight recordings. The National Transportation Safety Board Chair Jennifer Hamady said on Sunday no data was available in the cockpit voice recorder because it was not retrieved within 2 hours when recording restarts, erasing previous data. Interesting. I wonder, could this door have blown out due to pilot error? And because of the pilot error, they intentionally made sure that nothing got recorded? Could have, look, I don't know. Maybe there was something wrong with the pressurization settings. I don't know how these planes work. Maybe the pilot did something wrong, which resulted in the door panel blowing off. And then the co-pilot's like, what did you do? Did you press this? Oh, I pressed the wrong button. Oh, no. Quick, erase it. And we'll call it all just whoopsie daisy. I think it's diversity. Boeing MAX 9 plane had been barred from long flights over water. This is crazy. Had been barred. Alaska Airlines restricted the use of the plane, which lost part of its fuselage on Friday because of a warning light that went off on previous flights, an official said. They knew something was wrong, which says to me that the flight recorder data likely was intentionally recorded over. I have this from Reason. Let's talk about the conspiracies from 2019. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez's Green New Deal aims to eliminate air travel. Really? And look where we are 5 years later. 5 years later, we have these plane crises. Not just this door being blown off. There was a crash. Did you see the video of the crash? It was, a National Guard and a commercial jet exploded. Was it in Japan? You had the hard landing in Texas. So, okay, there were a lot of flights every day. These things happen, but seem to be happening a whole lot more. More importantly, with the employee shortage and the price of private flights skyrocketing. I got to tell you, man, we fly private. I'll tell you why. Tomorrow night, Tuesday at 11:30, after we wrap IRL, I have to get to Des Moines, Iowa for the Vivek Ramaswamy town hall we are hosting the next day. How is that going to be possible if I also host a morning show? Now, by all means, I can cancel my morning show, hop a commercial flight, spend the whole day traveling. Yeah, that's not practical. It's not practical at all. And if I miss that commercial flight, no town hall. So we fly private. So we find charters, and it's not as expensive as people think to charter a private jet. It's between I would estimate, it really depends on the charter, mind you. If you go for you want to charter a 737 private, if you want to fly on Trump's Air Force Trump or whatever, okay, that thing can cost $100,000 to $200,000 for a charter, but come on. Typically, when you're flying, it can be, depending on how far you're going, for a flight like this, $20,000 for 9 people. So a couple grand per person, but you fly when you want to fly, you fly back when you want to fly back. Not that bad. So we're watching these prices increase dramatically to the point where we have another event planned and it may be cost prohibitive. Look, doing a town hall with Vivek Ramaswamy and the Iowa caucus is an expensive trip. That's why I said before, it's $100,000 to do this thing because we have to get a private jet. We have to get the entire crew who can run the show there. We got to get them all there right after IRL, be there in the morning. A lot of heavy lifting to make something like that happen. We're starting to look at the cost of these flights skyrocketing, doubling. It's nuts. And I'm like, I don't know if we can pull this off. Now, the Iowa one for sure. I'm just saying in the future, we got one trip that we're looking at right now for a big show. And there's this company that has really low cost. It's a company called Verijet. They have small jets that can fit 4 adults plus 2 kids. And they are really cheap. They're comparable to the price of first class. So it's really good. They came back with a quote that was so insane. It was 4 times the price of first class. But the only way we can pull off these shows is if I can fly after we wrap IRL and we hop on the plane immediately. Private flights, you just walk on the plane, you go. So maybe we just can't do these shows anymore. Maybe that was the point of all of these greenhouse, climate change agenda policies. They would prefer it if we just did remote shows where our guests call in instead of sitting here in studio, but we do everything in person, in studio with our guests. We fly them out. It's getting crazy. The cost of flights is going up. It's getting harder and harder every day. It really is pretty dang wild. And this is one of the reasons why we chose to operate near DC, because so many political individuals, commentators, etc. are nearby. It makes it easy for people to just drive in. Plus, East Coast is high population density, but it is getting crazy. So 5 years ago, when AOC says she wants to eliminate air travel, what do we get? Factcheck.org. Green New Deal doesn't call for an end to air travel. It just says they want to make air travel unnecessary. They want to stop. They want to scale up to the point where air travel is not necessary. And they also said, quote, "We aren't sure that we'll be able to fully get rid of farting cows and airplanes that fast." Get rid of airplanes? Don't worry. The fact checkers say they don't call for an end to that. Huh. Let's carry forward, shall we? I won't use. I will briefly mention. I did have this pulled up. ESG is laying off a bunch. BlackRock is laying off a bunch of their ESG employees. So good, we are winning. But and Black Swan events. I have this out of order. Farmers are protesting. These are all just factors in the climate change agenda stuff. But what I want to get to is this story right here. Female-led company didn't build collapsed bridge. Remember this story? Out of Florida, there's a bridge. It collapsed. The meme was that it was designed by women or something. Yeah, I don't know that that's true. But what I can tell you is the fact checkers like to lie and manipulate. What I can tell you is the company that built it certainly prioritized diversity and bragged about it to a great extent. So saith Snopes.com. You have this article in the factcheck.org from, what is this, Minuteman-militia.com. Sure. It says a female-led construction company built the Florida bridge that collapsed. The fact checkers say, quote, female-led didn't build it. That's a lie. Female-led is an opinion statement, not a fact statement. You can argue that there's fact in the opinion statement. That is, this is a company that had many women in managerial positions, so it had female leadership. The argument from this website, Minuteman Militia, is that there shouldn't be any women because they're all bad at what they do in terms of construction. I'm being a little hyperbolic, but basically that's right. Anyway, look, They outright say the construction company is owned by 5 brothers, but it does have many women high up on the ladder who are doing design and engineering work. One woman who said that women can bring an artistic perspective, and they argue it's women saying they can make it look pretty. Whatever. No, you can't build things. The bridge collapsed for no other reason than terrible structure. Blah, blah, blah. You have this other image. MCM, the builder of the FIU bridge that collapsed, and it's a bunch of women. Okay. Here's Snopes. And here's the point I'm getting to. Was it an all-female construction company? That's not what they said. They said female-led. Okay. Here's a picture of the MCM, the builder of the FIU bridge that collapsed, and it shows a bunch of women. If you want to argue, well, there's just some women in management. The company isn't run by women. It's some of it is run by women, but it's more so run by men. It's men that own it. It's just a company that sucks. They should, I don't know. If they're responsible for it, I don't know. I'll just say allegedly. The issue here is, it's fascinating. This is the game they play. Someone says this company prioritized female leadership, which they did, and then a bridge collapsed, which it did. Now, I don't know what caused the collapse, who designed it or whatever, but okay, let's make sure we get that context in there. Snopes changes the argument to be absolute so they can debunk it and trick people into believing it's not the case. Because, of course, Snopes says false. After a devastating pedestrian bridge collapse at Florida International University on March 15th, et cetera, et cetera. This company, the Snopes page is formatted all crazy like. This company had a post, a strong woman looks at a challenge dead in the eye and gives her all thanks for the MCM women, blah, blah, blah. It's absolutely a company that bragged about diversity, bragged about these initiatives. I should have said it earlier on, but diversity programs are killing people. We had planes crash. Boeing is all about that diversity, baby. All about it. Look, man, real diversity means back in the day when they would only hire white people, dude, the best person for the job might not be white. So diversity just means you look at everyone available. But that's not what the woke use diversity to mean anymore. Diversity now just means no more white people, no more men. That's the stupidest thing ever because it's the exact same problem. If you're going to hire people and you ignore a race of people, like I already said, you are not going to be hiring the best person for the job. And here we are. I give you the tweet from Ashley St. Clair. On July 29th, the United plane was nearly totaled after a hard landing. I believe it was totaled in the sense that it can't fly, but who was flying the aircraft? Was the co-pilot a former flight attendant who was fired and then rehired through United's diversity program despite being on a list to not return to United? Am I correct this individual failed multiple trainings, including simulator training? Am I also correct that United has covered up this DEI disaster and many others? It seems Ashley St. Clair has sources within these airlines. And the reason she's phrasing this as a question is because potential litigation and lack of confirmation. But I would not be surprised if this is the case. Ashley says, was the number 2 Denver hiring center also onboarded through DEI? Did she or did she not change fail grades for diversity hires because, quote, it makes the numbers look bad? Did the instructor who failed as co-pilot ask corporate why they passed him? Very, very interesting. Do you want to fly on these Boeing Airlines and these United Airlines? So I have a question. Is this the Green New Deal, the Great Reset? Or is it just a diversity agenda? Because I got to tell you, the diversity agenda is resulting in such terrifying aspects of flight that people are not going to want to fly anymore. And thus, the Green New Deal's, let's just call it a passive desire to play to the fact checkers, to end air travel or make it unnecessary, it's coming to fruition because of the failures of these programs. Look at this. The fuselage here on this plane looks cracked, buckles, after a rough landing, they call it. I think it's patently obvious, my friends. It is one or the other. The diversity agenda of the woke is causing infrastructure collapse. Its prioritization of diversity over meritocracy means over a long enough scale. You know what? Let's play the blackjack game. I've used this analogy before. For those that understand it, you get it. For those that haven't heard it, here it is. When you play blackjack at a casino, the house edge is like 0.5%. That means For every 1,000 hands, the House is going to win 505. That's it. That's teeny. How long is it going to take to play that many hands? The casino knows that in the short term for you, it's 50-50 as far as you can tell. But for the casino, over a long enough period of time, they cannot lose because the math averages out. The average will be that they will win 0.5% of all bets placed against them. That's the edge. And other games have up to 3 or even 30%. There are some really bad bets you can make in a casino. And if you're willing to make it because you don't know better, you're going to lose your money over a long period of time. You may argue, they may argue that hiring this one guy did not do anything. But over a long enough period of time, if the stress on our industry through diversity hires over meritocratic hires is 0.5%, then you will get crisis. How many bridges have collapsed? The one? How many planes have crashed? A couple? That's the point. Out of the tens of thousands of bridges they've built in the past, however long. Out of the tens of thousands of flights, how many real disasters have we had? Not that many. So the argument is, and has always been among these people, there are sacrifices they're willing to make. They say, look, we'll do the diversity hire thing, but sir, that'll result in 2 additional plane crashes every 10 years. 2. Out of how many hundreds of thousands of flights we make? Who cares? Do you want to be on that plane? I don't think you do. Do you want to be driving under that bridge? You certainly don't. And therein lies the point. Acceptable losses for the agenda. Or it could be climate change. And they could be intentionally sabotaging this stuff because they want to scare people away from flying on these planes. Either way, both are happening. Planes are having errors with diversity as an initiative. It's diversity hiring over meritocratic hiring. And it's resulting in people being scared to fly, especially on these planes. Conspiracies. Oh boy, I wonder. I'll leave it there. Next segment is coming up at 4 p.m. on this channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.